Hi, thank you for tuning in. My name is Kelly, and I'm a UX engineer with the Meta Design Studio. Figma is the design platform that our studio is using, and building plugins has really unlocked even more potential. Prasanna and I have worked on a bunch of different Figma plugins, and we wanted to talk you through how we're building and using them at Microsoft. Before I get started, I'll introduce myself a little more. I'm here in Seattle, and I've been working as some version of a UX engineer for the last 7 years. I have a degree in psychology and web design and interactive media. You know, the classic combination. When I switched directions to a more creative field, I didn't realize how much my previous experience I would still be using. When it comes to conducting user research and looking at the user experience, my past exposure to psychology and research actually complemented those things pretty well. So, this is where I like to be, in a role that does a little bit of everything: engineering, motion, prototyping, user testing, and analyzing data. Here is a list about what we're going to be looking at today. I started with an introduction to plugins, and I'll show you some fun features you can add right away to customize them. Prasanna will be showing you how Microsoft has been experiencing and helping enhance the designer experience, and she'll be demoing some really helpful tools. The last section will be about some of the broader capabilities that you can achieve with plugins. They may be small, but they really pack in a lot of useful functionality. So let's get started. Plugins are built using HTML and JavaScript. It's a browser-based platform. The development experience is really customizable, and you can bring in your existing web-based libraries and frameworks. I got started building Figma plugins when the opportunity arose to rebuild a plugin for the Ally team at Microsoft. It was a different type of project, so I was definitely interested in trying it out. As a UX engineer, I like to interact with new and unique systems. I've built apps for the Xbox, which use Kinect's voice and gesture controls. RIP Connect. I also worked with dual screen apps when prototyping for the Surface Neo. I just love working with new interfaces and technology. With Figma plugins, there's a unique system between the Figma plugin and the scene behind it. So getting the chance to build and work with something in this new space has been a lot of fun. It wasn't too unfamiliar though. I could still keep using all the things that I'm used to, like React and TypeScript. So it's a lot like building a front-end web app. You can do things like add telemetry to your plugins. We're able to use our same application insight solution for telemetry that we use for all of our other products. You can also authenticate your users. Prasanna is going to discuss a little bit more about these later on. Figma makes it really easy to get started with a new plugin. You can have Figma generate a new project for you, or you can bring in your own files. If you want Figma to do it for you, they have a walkthrough that goes through the whole setup process, and I have a link here and at our resources at the end. It's great because it takes you through the process step by step. And if you're already doing front-end work, you could be up and running in only a few minutes. This is a setup I would recommend using if you're new to code. Figma gives you a basic plugin that gets you started interacting with the Figma scene. Let's take a look at some of the things you can do right away with a new plugin. All the dev work, including downloading a new plugin, is done using the desktop version of the Figma app. So if you aren't seeing the options you need, you might be on the wrong version. I've already downloaded a plugin from Figma and run the setup, so we're all ready to go. Let's switch over to Figma and take a look at it. So here is our Figma app. and we can enter a number here and generate some squares. So that's how it works. And we can take a look at the code to see how we can customize it some more. So here we have our UI.html file. This is the code that interacts with the Figma plugin. And what I normally would like to do with a plugin like this is start off adding some styles. You can see that we don't have a CSS file here, so we're going to add the styles at the top. This isn't normally how people manage CSS, and I'll walk you through how to get the experience that you're used to later on. So we have our style tag here, and I have some CSS code all ready to go. So I'm going to copy that in, and we're going to make some more changes to the plugin. I'm going to get rid of the title and some buttons. And we're just going to simplify it a bit. And I'll wrap this in a div here, just so that everything is contained. And now we'll go see what we've done in our app. All right, let me reload the plugin. And there we go. With just a few lines of code, we've completely redone the style. One of my favorite things to use in Figma is the Figma API. VS Code practically writes the code for you, so we can go and take a look at that now. Let's look at the code.ts file. Here in the middle, we have the code that is generating our squares. And you can see that we have our number here, but we're not checking to see if the user is entering an actual number that we can use. They could be entering a negative number or a letter. Let's use the Figma API to notify the user if they've entered the wrong thing. I have some code here to check if they've entered the right number. So let's uncomment that here. And then we'll use the API. I'm going to type Figma dot, and VS Code's IntelliSense has shown me all the things that I can use when using the API. I want to use notify, and hey, it's come up really fast. I'll grab that here. And then when I hover over it, I can see what I need to use in order to make it work. So I don't have to go and look at the API documentation. Everything I need to use notify is right here in the message. Looks like we need a message string, so that's what I'll add. Let's say, please use numbers only. All right, there we go. And let's take a look at what we've done. I'll reload the plugin and I will add a negative number. And there we go at the bottom. There's our notification. So I've updated some styles and I've looked at the API a little bit. So it's really easy to get started with something like this. If you are running into any issues, Figma has a resource for that. There is the Slack channel where you can ask questions and see what other people have been asking. It's a really great resource, and I'll show you, and it's at the end in our resources. Let's go back to the presentation. I have a little bit more tips to discuss about our getting started. So another way to start a project is to find and download a boilerplate project online. This is a path that I always take because I can find a project with a front-end stack with React and TypeScript already set up. If you like managing your styles separately, or you like using things like styled components, you can't just add a CSS file. You have to use something like Webpack to inline the styles when the plugin is being compiled. Information on using Webpack is in the Figma documentation, but that's why I go the boilerplate route, because I can find a solution with that already set up. Once you import your plugin, you can just follow the README and launch it in Figma. Let's say that you've made a plugin and it searches the Figma scene for gray rectangles and replaces them with pictures of Pomeranians. That sounds like a great plugin, and you're going to want to get it out to the public. Publishing plugins is a straightforward process. When you're ready, you'll also need to have the content that will appear on the plugins community page. I have a list of some of the content here. The publishing menu has all the details about the sizes you'll need for all the items. If your plugin is internal to your company, then it can be published right away. But if you're making a plugin that's public, there's a short review process for that. So those are some things that you can use to get started. This really is a great software, and there's an entry point for every skill level. Great, I'm going to pass this over to Prasanna.
Hi, I'm Prasanna from Microsoft, working as UX engineer with Meta design team for last 6+ years. I'm here in Sunnyvale working remotely with my team in Redmond. I started my career as a mobile engineer and worked for 5 years. After seeing the need for icon scaling, I got motivated to work on Figma plugin, switching to the web landscape. Today, I'm going to walk through how Microsoft is using Figma plugins. Like Kelly mentioned, Figma has become a primary design tool at Microsoft. We believe in building custom plugins on this platform helps designers' workflow. So we are dedicating resources to build custom plugins because it is not just helps designers' workflow, but empowers designers to achieve more. Some of the plugins that we have created helps designers with repetitive tasks, design workflow, and to include accessibility at the design level. Kelly is going to talk about an accessibility tool, why it was created, and how it's being used in the later part of the presentation. We have built many plugins. Some of them are internal, and some of them are for the Figma community. If you are interested to look at what resources are available at Microsoft, check out the link and follow us. Let's jump into some of the plugins that we built at Microsoft and how they are being used. First, today, I'm going to talk through Node Inspector plugin. Unlike other plugins that we have for designers, which will be covered later, this is created purely to help developers to build Figma plugins. My role in the past required me to consume design comps and make it real. I never have to deal into the details of what the node is, and how each type of node is different. But when I started building plugins, I came to know that Node Inspector, node properties plays a major role in building plugins. Initially, I had to use a console to investigate the node properties. But once I knew about this plugin, I never used a console for looking into the node properties. If you look here, this plugin gives all the details of the selected card in the tree form. It is easy to view and copy the node properties. If you are starting to build a plugin, then I recommend using this plugin. Let's look at the designer plugins. Content Real. This is one of the Microsoft most popular plugin with a over of 339K plus downloads. It helps designers with repetitive tasks. This is a database of curated content. It is accessed by the plugin, which allows user to add image, text, icon to the design comps in day-to-day design process. It also allows user to add custom text and images as per their requirement. If you want to do a stress test on your layout, you can use this tool to get a different length content. If you are a designer looking for a content for your comps, this is the plugin you are looking for. If you are already using this plugin, there is more exciting content and features coming in the next version. Stay tuned. And the next one is icon scaling. This is my first plugin that I have worked on. It helps with designers' workflow. Microsoft Fluent system has nearly 2,800 plus varieties of icons, which include both regular and filled versions. For each variety of icon, we have multiple sizes, at most 6 based on the requirement. I cannot imagine how much time it takes for the designers to create each icon of multiple size. So we decided to create a smart tool to make this process easy to save designers' time. It all started as a Node.js project by scaling the SVGs. After stress testing, SVGs are not really providing the each details we contribute to the icon design. Then we created this plugin to try Figma node scaling. It's the best decision we have taken to get better results in the generated output. This is not just to generate multiple icons, but helps with exporting icons, both PDF and SVGs for the production use. Let's look at a demo of this tool. Here is the plugin, which has different tabs. One is for generation, and one is for export, one is for help. I really recommend, if you are using this plugin for the first time, going through this tab will help you understand and give some recommendations on your icon design. It also gives some tips to get a greater results. Today, I'm going to concentrate on the generate and export part. Let's select the icons that you want to generate. Here in the tool, we have a preview of all the selected icons and a list of suggested multiple sizes and a weights. We have two weights, one is regular and one is light. Regular has a different stroke weight for different size icons, whereas light, it has same stroke weight for all the icons. Let's tap on generate and see what it's going to happen. Woo! It's kind of generated a multiple icons of our selected sizes. Just imagine how much time it would take for designers to create these icons of different sizes. It took less than a second by using this tool. Let's look at the export part. Select the icons that you want to export. Here in the preview, it gives all the selected icons, and each was divided by that icon type. If you select the icon, it kind of gives you a preview of how this icon will look on the canvas. When you have a winding errors, this preview will show you the winding errors, and right away you can fix those errors. Let's export the icons. Let's save it. Let's jump to the folder to see what it got exported. It exported a zip file. When you open the assets, it clearly has a different folders for each icon. And when you look into each icon, it has both PDFs and SVG folders. And each PDF and SVGs have all the selected icons. And it also has a text format file to give all the exported file. This is really helpful for a reference point of view. Now Kelly is going to talk about an accessibility tool.
Hi, accessibility is an important focus at Microsoft, and it's also an important focus of mine. I'm an accessibility champ for my org, and that's what we call people who are a resource for accessibility. And I've been building accessibility into products and looking at solutions for years. These are some of the different type of accessibility areas that people are building tools for at Microsoft, not just as plugins, but as tools throughout our products. We have some really great tools like Accessibility Insights, which checks products and it identifies accessibility areas that need improvement. Everyone has different abilities, and Microsoft wants to build products and services that everyone can use. So, how does accessibility get built into your products? Does the accessibility fall to engineering in the final hour? We've been trying to prevent that. We've been building Figma plugins that give accessibility its own place in the design workflow and move some of the accessibility work onto the designer. Because who has the best idea about how a user should navigate a design? It's the person who created it. This is where our focus order plugin comes in. A year or so ago, I partnered with the Ally team to rebuild their focus order plugin and add a bunch of new features. I'm also the current dev assigned to this product. The plugin allows the designer to annotate their design with the focus order, and those notes can be passed on to the engineer with the design. Let's take a look at our plugin in Figma. Great, so here we have our plugin, and it looks like someone's already added some annotations. We're going to annotate this top frame here. It's a simple layout, but it'll show you how to use the focus order plugin. Let's add a new annotation set, and we'll call it membership. And we'll add it. There we go, we've added it to our list. The focus order is the path that assistive technologies like screen reader and voiceover used to go through the design. So we're going to go through and grab all of the interactive areas that the focus order will navigate to. And then we're going to add them to our list. And then we're going to go through and make sure we have them in the right order. Looks like we need to move that one up, and then we'll switch these two around. There we go, really easy. So this would be ready to hand off to an engineer so that they can see what the focus order would look like. Obviously, for a more complex layout, this focus order plugin would be really useful. In our latest update, we added a bunch of new features, and I'll show you how they look now. We can add even more detail to the annotations. Let me grab this first annotation here, and we'll add some properties and roles that'll help add accessibility when the developer is coding. So here we go. We'll call this a button, and we'll call this logo. There we go, really easy, and we'll move on to the menu. The role for this is also a button, and we have some additional ARIA properties here. We know that it's a menu, so it has a pop-up, and so we'll select that there, and we'll save. And then here we have two checkboxes. That's also in our list, and the value is checked. We'll also move on and do that to our next checkbox pretty fast here. And then our last button, we have a join button. And let's say this button also has a pop-up, so we'll add that property there. So there you go. That was pretty fast and easy. We were able to add a bunch of annotations, and it's a win for accessibility. It also helps the designer think about how assistive technologies move through their design. So those are some of the plugins that we have at Microsoft. Download them, give them a try. We're always working on them and improving them. Now I'll pass this back to Prasanna.
Thanks, Kali. Let's look at some of the broader capabilities to unlock in a plugin. Here is the bunch of list today I'm going to walk through, and the first one today I'm going to focus on authentication. Authentication. Some plugins requires authentication to protect data, and there are multiple ways to authenticate, either through Microsoft, Google, Facebook, etc. Good news is we can add authentication in Figma plugins. Since Figma is built as an Electron-based app, its authentication is not same as web application. Unlike the web, Figma opens a new browser window when you authenticate, and plugin waits for the access token. Once an access token is available, the server sends it back to the plugin, and the plugin stores it on the client. As to avoid re-authentication every time your plugin runs. Imagine if you have multiple plugins that requires authentication, and having each server-based browser for each plugin will be a lot of work and maintenance. So at Microsoft, we are building a single server-based browser to authenticate multiple apps. It helps with consistency and maintenance. But I'm not going into the details of how we are achieving it. That's an idea, we are still working on it. If you like this idea, try this approach. Let's go to the next slide. Components and styles. Studios have design systems where its styles and components are shared across the library. It not only allows designers to reuse styles and components, but helps plugin developer to fetch components and styles through the Figma API. Fetched components and styles can help developers to reduce their time to create components in code. It helps to keep up to date with the design changes. Recently, when I was working on emoji plugin, we have multiple approaches, but we opted out for style because it is a great way and easy way to generate multicolor emoji assets. Check out this links, which has a great documentation about this topic. Figma UI toolkit. When you have multiple plugins, we prefer to make it look right and consistency. Creating a UI toolkit helps with speed and maintenance and with the consistency too. We at Microsoft created a toolkit for Figma plugins to make our plugins have a family look. Each time you start building a plugin, it reduces effort creating components from scratch. Like Kelly mentioned, we use Figma boilerplate project for the plugins we built at Microsoft. It includes this toolkit to make this process much faster and easier. Here, we use Storybook to explore all our UI components. If you like to have a toolkit for your plugin, Microsoft Fluent Web Toolkit is a great way to start because the good part is it comes with an accessibility feature too. You can find out more details about Fluent Web Toolkit at this link. It consists of other toolkits for Windows, Mac OS, iOS, Android, and cross-platform. Last one today I'm going to talk about is telemetry. Telemetry helps with detecting performance, diagnosing issues, and understand what users are doing with the plugin. Like web, we can add telemetry to your plugins. We are using application insights to add telemetry to our plugins. It is a feature of Azure Monitor. It gives the information about country or region-based data and each event handling data and much more. It helps us to understand how our plugins are used and helps us to become better with the features based on the uses and fix any user-facing issues. Now back to Kelly.
If you're already using Figma to design, and you probably are since you're attending this conference, then building Figma plugins and allocating resources to improve the experience for your designers just makes sense. Having tools within Figma rather than having to go someplace else is a much better workflow. Getting started is easy, and at Microsoft, we have people of all skill levels making plugins. Normally, it might be odd to hear that the project you're working on was coded by a designer, but that's been my experience. A lot of the plugins I've worked on were originally built by designers. At Microsoft, designers have really embraced these tools to improve the way that they're working in Figma. It helps them and it helps everyone around them. And plugins can be just as powerful as a web app. Don't let their size fool you. These plugins can really pack a punch and provide resources and functionality directly to where you're working in Figma. Here are some of our resources. These are the resources you'll need to help get started with Figma. I want to shout out the Slack channel again. It's the link at the bottom. I use this all the time because it has a lot of good information and there's a lot of people there to help provide feedback. So that's all we have for today. Thanks again for joining us and have a great conference.
Yes, thank you.